Patriots Nation, things are heating up in Foxborough, and today we've got 4 developments that could say a whole lot about where this team is headed. There's a surprising draft name popping up, a trade possibility that could shake up the defense, a major debate about the future of the offense, and another weapon being tied to Drake Maye's growth. When this many clues start showing up at the same time, I pay attention. So hit that like button and stick with me because today's breakdown is loaded. Now, the first story of the day has that backstage buzz that makes fans stop and think. The Patriots could walk out of this draft with a major addition on the interior defensive line, and the name that's landed on the radar is Ohio State's Kayden McDonald. The connection came from ESPN's Jordan Reed, and that alone changes the weight of the conversation because this isn't just some random internet guess. And the most interesting part here isn't only the player, it's the context. New England handled free agency well, moved pieces around and trimmed down some of its biggest needs, which means the Patriots are now in a dangerous place for the rest of the league and a fascinating place for anyone following the inside buzz. They can draft cold-blooded, without desperation, thinking about sealing instead of just putting out fires. McDonald is viewed as a difference maker against the run, with elite lower body power, real physical presence, and a profile that naturally brings up comparisons to some serious names. And whenever those kinds of comps start flying around, Patriots fans instantly think back to the old defensive identity of this franchise, that brick wall front that gave up nothing, set the tone, and made opposing offenses lose their nerve. But that's where this gets really spicy. Because if you look at the roster, defensive tackle doesn't exactly scream need. This team already has Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Corey Durden, and Joshua Farmer in that rotation. So this wouldn't be a panic pick. This would be a conviction pick. And that's exactly what stands out to me behind the scenes. When a franchise starts getting linked to a player outside its obvious need, sometimes that's a message in itself. The message could be simple. This staff believes it can build a suffocating defense all over again. It could also be a pure best player available read. And honestly, I get it. Winning teams don't build rosters by staring at a needs chart all day. Winning teams also think about identity, dominance, depth, and how to control big games at the line of scrimmage. At the same time, the question splitting the fan base is fair. Is this really the moment to double down on defense when Drake Maye still needs better protection and more firepower around him on offense? The Super Bowl left scars in that conversation. The pressure on the quarterback showed up way too often, and the offense lacked consistent star power when it mattered most. So if McDonald ends up being the pick, it won't be one that quietly slides by. It's going to spark a serious debate because the football fit makes sense, but the emotional urgency of this fan base is on the other side of the ball. And that's exactly why this draft connection feels so unusual. It may be saying a lot about how the Patriots see their own future. The second story is one of those that makes Patriots fans look at their phones and go, "Hold on a second. Is a door opening at exactly the right time?" Because while a lot of people are still locked in on A.J. Brown rumors or bigger, pricier names, an interesting scenario has surfaced involving Kayvon Thibodeaux. And the point here is not to act like this move is already lined up. The point is to understand why this conversation suddenly has real juice. Thibodeaux requested a trade. The Giants are in a period of transition. And the new tone coming out of New York no longer sounds like full protection mode. Quite the opposite. When John Harbaugh says everyone is tradable for the right package, he's not just tossing out a throwaway line. He's basically leaving the door cracked open for the whole league to hear. And if the market can hear it, Elliott Wolf and company can hear it too. That's where things get really interesting for New England, because we're talking about a 25-year-old pass rusher, a former first-round pick, someone who has already shown legitimate NFL production and still has room to fully explode in the right environment. His 2023 season proved that. We're talking 11.5 sacks, constant pressure, physical disruption, and that feeling that a defender was on the verge of becoming a true nightmare. Then the production dipped, and naturally that raises questions. But not every drop-off tells the whole story. Sometimes the environment weighs on a player. Sometimes the fit gets messy. Sometimes a guy just stops buying into where he is. And in this league, a fresh start can flip everything upside down. Now through a Patriots lens, I'll be blunt. If the price really lands around a day 2 pick, that changes the whole level of temptation. Because then New England wouldn't be entering some ridiculous bidding war for an already maxed out superstar. They'd be taking a swing on premium talent that could still be molded inside a more stable, more disciplined, and more culture-driven structure. Just imagine a front featuring Thibodeaux, Christian Barmore, and Milton Williams creating chaos together. That changes defensive packages. That changes third down. That changes the way opposing offenses have to build their plan. That puts fear back on the menu. But there's an even bigger layer to this. A move like this would say a lot about how aggressive the Patriots really are in this stage of the rebuild. Going after Thibodeaux would not be the move of a comfortable, passive roster. That would be a franchise saying it believes it's closer than people think and wants to speed up the timeline with young, high-impact talent. Sure, the contract conversation would come next, along with incentive structure and the questions about consistency. But those are the kinds of bets that separate timid teams from ambitious ones. And if there's a real chance to pull a pass rusher like this out of New York for a controlled price, I honestly think the Patriots have to study that path all the way through. The third story hits a delicate spot because it involves Hunter Henry, the future of the offense, and a question the Patriots are going to have to face sooner rather than later. Henry is still a reliable target for Drake Maye. He understands space, helps with reads, and brings that veteran security blanket every young quarterback appreciates. But he's heading into his age 32 season and the final year of his deal. And in the back rooms of a competitive roster, that kind of detail never goes unnoticed. The conversation isn't just about what he can still give you. It's about how long it makes sense to keep betting on the same formula. And that's where Kyle Pittz enters as a possibility that completely changes the temperature of the conversation. If he really reaches the market in the next cycle, the Patriots could be looking at a major profile shift at tight end, moving from a steady veteran presence to a far more explosive weapon with a much higher athletic ceiling. Pittz is still only 25. He's already shown he can produce at a high level, and he remains one of those players who forces a defense to adjust just by stepping on the field. When he gets volume, when he's used with purpose, he becomes a real problem. And when you think about Drake Maye, that fit starts to get really intriguing. A tight end with that kind of range, movement, and run-after-catch ability could make life easier for a young quarterback. Attack the middle of the field with more aggression, and turn routine plays into chunk gains. This isn't just about numbers. It's about giving the offense a different kind of threat. A chess piece that changes the shape of a defense before the ball is even snapped. Of course, a lot can still happen before then. Pittz could explode, get extended, or become a target for half the league. But New England would be smart to monitor this now because that's exactly the type of decision that separates a functional offense from one that can actually become dangerous. And I want to hear from you. If that door opens, are you sticking with Hunter Henry for the experience, or are you going all in for Kyle Pittz? The fourth story is pure pre-draft smoke in Foxborough, because it brings together a mock draft, an offensive need, and that classic behind-the-scenes haze where nobody wants to reveal the real plan. The name being tied to the Patriots is Washington wide receiver Denzel Boston, projected by CBS Sports' Garrett Podell as New England's first-round pick. And let me say this right now, that fit is not crazy at all. In fact, given the current state of the roster, it makes a lot of sense to seriously discuss wide receiver in round one, especially because Drake Maye still needs more talent, more size, and more weapons that can punish defenses in different ways. Boston is interesting for exactly that reason. He's a big, strong receiver who can line up inside or outside. He's been productive at Washington, and he's got the kind of development arc that gets real NFL attention. He wasn't the flashy, can't-miss recruit coming out of high school, but he turned himself into a real impact player in college. And that kind of path matters. It shows growth. It shows patience. It shows the ability to answer when your moment comes. For the Patriots, that matters. This team doesn't just need a flashy name. It needs a piece that fits Drake Maye's development and fits the offensive identity this staff is trying to build. But the most interesting part of this story is the tension. Because wide receiver makes sense, but it's not the only priority. Offensive line and edge rusher are still very much alive in this conversation, and that leaves pick 31 wide open. If the board breaks the wrong way, receiver could jump to the front. If another player drops at a different position, the whole direction changes. And when Mike Vrabel was asked about the pick, he gave away absolutely nothing. He said the team might trade up, might trade back, might stay right where it is. Translated from front office smoke signals, the Patriots want every option on the table, and they're not going to make life easier for anyone trying to read them 2 weeks before the draft. That's the kind of silence I respect. It shows preparation, flexibility, and a willingness to react to the board instead of handcuffing yourself to one idea. If Denzel Boston really is the target, there's logic there. But even if he isn't, the bigger takeaway might be this. New England looks like it's heading into the draft without panic, with real options, and with room to strike wherever the value shows up. And for anyone following this team closely, that's already a very strong sign. At the end of the day, this whole group of stories shows that the Patriots are stepping into a huge moment with more than one strong path on the table. There's the possibility of beefing up the defensive interior, a chance to take a real swing on a difference-making pass rusher, an important conversation about the future of the tight end position, and the draft itself as a stage to give Drake Maye more help. To me, that looks like a franchise thinking big and trying to build a roster that's tougher, deeper, and more dangerous. Now, drop a comment and tell me which path you'd attack first. And if you like this script, subscribe to the channel so we can keep tracking every move out of Foxborough together.